She was still on the ground when my son put his arm around the woman who put her there. That's the image I carry. Not the mud on the dress. Not the faces of 200 people going quiet all at once. Not the string quartet that kept playing for a full 15 seconds after it happened, because nobody had told them to stop. The image I carry is my son, 36 years old, father's build, my own jawline, leaning down to whisper something in his brand new wife's ear while his mother lay in the flower bed behind him. And she laughed, not nervously. Not that half laugh people make when they're embarrassed and don't know what else to do. A real laugh, the kind that means something landed. I want you to hold that image for a second before I tell you the rest. Because everything that came after every phone call, every canceled transfer, every conversation in that hotel room, it all starts there, with that laugh. My name is Gerald Whitmore. I'm 63 years old. I've lived in Houston my entire adult life, raised 2 kids in the same house in Bel Air where my wife Donna and I still live. I built a commercial property management company from nothing, sold a portion of it 12 years ago, and spent the years since trying to be quietly useful to the people I love. Quietly is the important word. I don't need credit. Never have. I write checks the way some men send prayers without expecting a receipt. My son Marcus had been with Brittany for 4 years before he proposed. She's from money, Dallas money. The kind that wears itself lightly and cuts deeply. Her family has a ranch in the hill country, a box at the rodeo, the whole picture. When Marcus brought her home the first time, Donna made her grandmother's queso, and Brittany said it was, quote, so homey. She said it like a compliment. Donna smiled and nodded, and later that night told me she thought Brittany was going to be a lot of work. I told her to give it time. That was 4 years before the wedding. I should tell you what the wedding cost, because it matters to the story in a way you won't understand yet. The venue was a private estate outside of Katy white oak trees, a pond, a terrace with limestone flagstones that had probably been there since before I was born. Brittany had wanted it for 2 years before she even got engaged. I know because Marcus told me. He also told me, about 8 months before the wedding, that Brittany couldn't know he was asking me to help with the costs. She was sensitive about it, he said. She had this thing about feeling like she owed people. Could I just handle a few of the vendor invoices directly? So I did. I paid the photographer, a woman named Celeste who shot for a magazine I'd actually seen at my dentist's office. I paid the florist. I paid the rehearsal dinner venue, the transportation company, the honeymoon suite upgrade at a resort in Cabo, the linens, the lighting company that spent 2 days rigging those warm Edison bulbs in the oak trees. When I signed the vendor contracts, I signed them as the client of record. Marcus thought it was an accounting convenience. He didn't understand what those signatures actually meant until Monday morning. In total, across 5 years of quiet giving car payments I absorbed, credit card balances I cleared without mentioning it, a down payment on a house they were supposed to close on the Friday after the wedding, I had put more than $200,000 into my son's life. He knew some of it, not all of it. Brittany knew almost none of it. I had also opened an education fund 18 months earlier, $50,000 set aside for grandchildren who didn't exist yet, because Marcus had mentioned they were thinking about starting a family. I'm telling you this now so you understand what was at stake. Not the money. I don't care about the money. What was at stake was the question of whether any of it had meant anything at all. The day of the wedding, I was standing near the back of the terrace talking to my old college friend Desmond about his new downtown build when I heard the sound. Not a scream, more like a collective intake of breath, the sound 200 people make when they all see the same wrong thing at the same time. I turned around. Donna was in the flower bed. The garden bed they'd watered that morning so the dahlias would look full for photos. Her dress champagne-colored, the one she'd spent 8 weeks looking for, the one she'd showed me 3 separate times to make sure I noticed, was covered from shoulder to hem in dark, wet soil. She wasn't moving yet. She was just lying there on her side, looking at nothing. I noticed 3 things in the wrong order. First, that Donna's heels had come off. Second, that Brittany was already walking away from where it happened, chin slightly raised, the expression of someone who has decided the matter is settled. Third, that Marcus was right behind her, and he put his hand on her waist, and he leaned down, and she laughed. Desmond said, "Gerald, what just happened?" I didn't answer him. I was already moving, not toward Donna, because my daughter Kezia was closer and already there, kneeling in the mud without hesitating. I was moving toward the band setup at the back of the terrace, where the band leader, a man in his early 40s with a look of professional cheerfulness, was holding a wireless microphone and checking his set list. I pointed at the microphone. He handed it to me without asking why. I think he could see something in my face. I walked to the center of the terrace. The limestone was warm through the soles of my shoes. The Edison bulbs in the oak trees were just starting to glow as the sun dropped behind the tree line. I could see the centerpieces on every table, white calla lilies and eucalyptus, $380 per arrangement. I know the number because I approved the invoice. I could see the ice sculpture near the bar beginning to sweat in the June heat. I could see 200 faces turning toward me as I tapped the microphone once, and the sound carried across the whole terrace, and the string quartet finally stopped. I found Marcus first. He'd gone still. He knew something was coming, but not what. Brittany had a fresh glass of wine. Her expression was the expression of someone who had already written her own version of what happened, and was ready to defend it. I said, "Thank you all for being here to celebrate Marcus and Brittany today. Donna and I will be leaving now and won't be joining you for dinner. I want everyone here to know that I will not fund cruelty. I don't care whose name is on the invitation." I handed the microphone back to the bandleader. He held it like something that might go off again. The terrace was silent. Not politely quiet. Silent the way a room goes silent when everyone is deciding whether what they just heard was real. I walked across the flagstones to where Kezia was kneeling beside Donna. She'd gotten the mud off Donna's arms, but the dress was finished and we both knew it. Donna was crying, not the kind of crying that makes sound. Just tears running steadily down her face while she stared at the dahlias beside her. I took her hand. "We're leaving," I said. She nodded. Just nodded. Kezia looked up at me. "Dad, I've got her." And she did. She got one arm, I got the other, and we walked Donna slowly across the terrace and through the gate to the parking lot. Donna was barefoot. Her shoes were still somewhere in the flower bed. I heard Marcus call out behind us, "Dad, wait." I didn't wait. I didn't turn around. In the car, the air conditioning was too cold, but neither of us touched it. Donna sat in the passenger seat with mud still on her dress, and her hands folded in her lap, and she said, very quietly, "She pushed me, Gerald." She put both hands on my shoulders and pushed me hard. In front of everyone. I know. Why would she do that? I didn't answer right away. I knew why. I'd known for a long time. The same way you know a storm is coming 3 days before it hits, you can feel the pressure shifting even if the sky still looks clear. Brittany had been escalating for a year and a half. Little things at first. Talking over Donna at family dinners, making comments about Donna's kitchen being dated, telling Marcus at Thanksgiving that Donna's cooking was a lot in a way that was meant to sound like a compliment and didn't. At Christmas, Brittany seated Donna at a side table at the family gathering she hosted away from the immediate family and told Donna there had been a seating miscommunication. Marcus backed her up. 2 months before the wedding, Brittany told Marcus, in front of Donna, that once they were married, things in this family were going to be different. Donna told me about it that night. I said it was probably pre-wedding stress. That brides get overwhelmed. I was wrong. I was doing what I always do, finding the most charitable explanation and living inside it. We drove to the Marriott downtown where we were staying for the weekend. A couple in the lobby stared at Donna's dress. She walked past them looking straight ahead. In the room, she went directly to the bathroom. I heard the shower start. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my phone, and my hands were shaking, not dramatically, just enough that I had to set the phone down and breathe for a minute before I picked it back up. I opened my banking app. I want to be honest with you, I don't know how other people would have handled that moment. Maybe they would have made the calls the next morning, after sleep, after cooler heads. Maybe they would have waited to see if an apology came. But I've been in business for 30 years, and I know what it means when someone shows you exactly who they are in a moment where they think the cost of showing you is low. Brittany had decided the cost of pushing Donna into the mud was nothing. She was wrong about that, and I was done pretending otherwise. I called my financial advisor, a man named Howard, who's been with me for 20 years. He answered on the second ring. I told him to halt the wire transfer scheduled for Monday morning, $60,000 from my secondary account to Marcus and Brittany's escrow account for the house closing on Friday. He went quiet. Then he asked if I was sure, because stopping it meant they'd lose the house. I told him I was completely sure. I heard him typing. He said it was done. I thanked him and hung up. Then I called Celeste, the photographer. I told her I was the client of record on her contract, and I was instructing her not to deliver the photos to the bride and groom. She said she'd already gotten 4 texts from Brittany asking when the proofs would be ready. I told her to check her contract. She said she understood. She sounded like she did. Then I called the florist. Then the honeymoon resort. I downgraded the suite Marcus had no idea I'd upgraded, back to the standard room on his own credit card. Then the rehearsal dinner venue. Then the lighting company, which I couldn't fully cancel because the work was already done, but I told them to redirect any remaining balance back to me. 45 minutes. Every vendor whose contract had my name on the client line. Every financial commitment I controlled. When Donna came out of the bathroom in the hotel robe, her hair wet, her eyes red and small, she sat down next to me on the bed and asked what I was doing. I told her. She was quiet for a long time. Long enough that I started to wonder if I'd made a mistake, not morally, but tactically. Then she said, "They're going to lose the house." "Yes. Marcus is going to hate you." "Maybe. Gerald. This is going to break something between you." "I know that, Donna. But I cannot keep writing checks for someone who thinks it's acceptable to put their hands on you. I can't do it. It's not about the money." She put her hand over mine. We sat there in the too cold air conditioning while the city moved around outside. If you've ever sat in a room and felt the ground shift permanently beneath something you loved, a friendship, a family, a version of your life you thought was stable, you know what that hotel room felt like. It wasn't rage. Rage burns quick. This was something colder and heavier. This was me understanding that the version of my son I thought I knew had made a choice I couldn't unfold. Sunday morning, Kezia called at 8. She told me that after we left, Brittany had been furious about the microphone, about what I'd said, about half the guests who left early. She said Marcus had spent the rest of the reception managing Brittany's emotions and hadn't left her side once. She said Trevor, she meant Marcus, was panicking about something he wouldn't name, calling Kezia every hour, sounding scared. "He'll know Monday," I said. "Dad, what did you do?" "I stopped funding cruelty." Monday morning, Marcus called at 7:42. I let it ring twice. He called again. I declined. Third call, I answered. His voice was tight. The escrow company had notified them that the transfer hadn't arrived. The closing was Friday. They were going to lose it. He needed to know what happened. I told him what happened. He said it was an accident. He said Brittany was emotional. He said Donna had been, he paused here, struggling, that Brittany had felt Donna was being too present at the wedding, inserting herself. I asked what that meant. He couldn't give me a real answer. He said Donna had answered a guest's question about where Marcus was during cocktail hour, and that Brittany had seen it and gotten upset. That's what happened before the push. Donna told a guest my son was at the fountain taking pictures, and that was the provocation. I let that sit on the line between us for a moment. Then I told him the number. Not 60,000, all of it. $200,000 over 5 years. The cars, the credit cards, the wedding, the down payment, the education fund for children he didn't have yet. I told him all of it, slowly, because I needed him to understand the full weight of what he was standing inside. He was quiet for a long time. I said, "You could have stepped between them. You could have helped your mother up. You could have done anything. You put your arm around her and she laughed." He said he was trying to de-escalate. He said he whispered something about getting Brittany away from the crowd before she said something else. He wasn't making a joke. I said, "I was standing right there, Marcus. It looked like a choice." He said he was sorry. I told him to say that to his mother. I hung up. The following days were an education in how people respond when financial consequences arrive. Brittany texted me first, a carefully written message, every word chosen for maximum deniability. She said there had been a misunderstanding. She said what happened with Donna was not her intention. She said she was sorry if Donna had been hurt. I read it twice. I noticed the architecture of it. Not "I'm sorry I pushed your wife." Sorry if she was hurt. An apology shaped like a shield. An hour later, she called no longer careful, just furious. She said I was destroying their lives over nothing. She said I had no legal right to interfere with the vendors. I told her to check the contracts. She said I was punishing Marcus for her mistake. I said she was right, that it was her mistake. She hung up. Brittany's father called 2 days later. He told me his daughter was being painted unfairly. He said weddings were emotional. He said women get worked up. He asked if I'd consider putting this behind us for the sake of the family. I asked if Brittany had apologized to Donna, not sent a text, but called her, said the words, acknowledged what she actually did. He paused. He said he'd make sure she did. I told him that wasn't what I asked. He told me I was being vindictive. I told him there was a difference between vindictive and protective. He hung up. Donna, that night, asked me, "Do you think I did something? During the day? Was I too much?" That question broke my heart more cleanly than anything else in those weeks. Because that's what cruelty does when it's sustained long enough, it makes the target interrogate themselves. Donna had been told, in 100 small ways over 18 months, that her presence was a problem. And part of her had started to believe it. I told her, "You helped with the dress bustle. You made sure the flower girls had their baskets. You answered a question about where your son was. That's all you did." She nodded slowly. "I know," she said. "I just needed to hear you say it." If you've ever watched someone you love doubt themselves because of what someone else did to them, that specific helplessness, that anger at being unable to reach back in time and stop it, you understand why I don't regret a single phone call I made that night in the hotel room. Not one. Marcus showed up at the house unannounced on a Thursday, wearing clothes he'd slept in. I let him in. Donna stayed in the kitchen, but she was listening, I could tell from the silence. He told me Brittany wasn't a bad person. He said she got afraid when she felt like she was losing control of something important to her. He said the wedding had been building in her head for 2 years, and by the day of, she'd convinced herself Donna was trying to overshadow her. He said he knew it was irrational. He said he should have dealt with it before the reception. He looked at his hands. I froze, Dad. I saw what she did and I froze. I said, "You whispered something." She laughed. He looked up. I said, "Let's get you a drink." I was trying to move her away. It wasn't a joke. I know how it looked. We sat with that. "I know how it looked," he said again. "And I know what it cost you to see it. I'm sorry." I told him to go tell his mother that. He did. I heard their voices from the kitchen. Low, slow, careful, Donna cried. I think Marcus did too. When he left an hour later, nothing was repaired but something had shifted. A door that had swung shut was not quite latched anymore. 3 days later, Brittany called Donna directly. She told Donna she wanted to apologize. She said that if Donna apologized to her for creating drama at the wedding, she would consider forgiving her. Donna told me about it that evening with a completely flat voice. I went to my phone and closed the education fund, $50,000 back into my main account. Marcus would find out when he needed to know. Friday morning, Marcus called. They'd lost the house. The sellers kept the earnest money. They were moving in with Brittany's parents. His voice wasn't angry anymore, just exhausted. He said, "I know you think you were protecting Mom, but Dad, we had to sleep in her childhood bedroom last night. She cried the whole night. I don't know how to fix any of this." I said, "I know how to fix it. Brittany knows too. She's choosing not to." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "She says Mom owes her the apology. Then you're gonna have a very expensive marriage, son." 3 months later, the maid of honor, a woman named Simone, who I'd shaken hands with twice, posted a video on social media. She'd been filming on her phone when the push happened, holding it up and smiling, like she was capturing something the group would laugh about later. 400,000 views in 2 days. Half the comments were horrified, the other half thought it was funny. Someone captioned it, "When the mother-in-law forgets whose day it is." Donna watched it. She closed her laptop and walked to the bedroom without saying anything. I already had the video. I called Marcus that evening and sent him the file I'd saved the night of the wedding, the full clip, including what happened after, including Simone smiling as she filmed it. I told him, "Watch her face when she walks away. Watch yours. That's what 200 people saw." He didn't respond for 20 minutes. When he called back, he just said, "I've seen it." "No," I said. "You saw the night in front of you. You didn't see what you looked like from the outside." He didn't argue. He didn't call back to defend anything. In August, Marcus told me he and Brittany were in counseling. In September, Donna called him her choice, not mine, and I respected it entirely, and they talked for an hour. She came to me afterward with steady eyes and told me what he'd said. That he was sorry, that Brittany was who she was and he couldn't change her, that he wanted his parents in his life, but Brittany wouldn't allow it unless Donna apologized. Donna said, "I'm not apologizing for being pushed into the mud." "No," I said, "you're not. But Gerald, I think we need to leave the door open for Marcus without making him choose. If we make him choose between us and his marriage, we might lose him completely. He's stuck, and he knows he made the wrong call. Making him prove it over and over won't get us back what we lost." She was right. She's usually right about people. We told Marcus the door was open, that our relationship with him wasn't conditional on what happened with Brittany, that if the marriage ended, he didn't have to earn his way back to us. October. Marcus and Brittany separated officially. Kezia called to tell me. Brittany moved back to her parents. Marcus was devastated, not relieved, devastated. He'd loved her. That was real. The divorce filed in November. She asked for alimony. She asked for wedding costs reimbursed. She asked for half his retirement account after 11 months of marriage. In December, my doctor called me into his office and told me I had early-stage prostate cancer. Treatable. Good prognosis. Caught early. Donna sat down on the edge of the bed when I told her, and took my hand and said, "Okay, we deal with it." I called Marcus that evening. He drove over without asking any questions. He sat with us until late. We talked about nothing that mattered, and everything that did. The Astros, Kezia's new job. A trip Donna and I had always talked about taking to Portugal. We didn't mention the wedding, we didn't mention Brittany, we didn't mention the house or the money or any of it. We just sat together in the living room the way we used to before any of this happened. The next day I told Marcus I was updating my will, that he was still in it, that going forward, any inheritance would be held in a trust that protected it from future spouses. He said he understood. I told him I didn't regret pulling the down payment or the vendors. He said he knew. He said he'd been trying to decide, for months, whether he was angry about it. He'd finally decided he wasn't. The divorce finalized in March. Marcus moved into an apartment near Midtown, started over at 36. Donna and I see him every week for dinner now. We're rebuilding slowly, the way you rebuild anything that was broken by someone who didn't care what they were breaking carefully, without rushing, checking each piece before you set it down. In April, Kezia told us she was pregnant, first grandchild. Donna cried in the kitchen and then called her immediately and cried again on the phone. When Kezia asked if we'd help with childcare, Donna said, "Every day that you need us." That night in bed, Donna asked me, "Do you think we did the right thing?" I thought about it honestly before I answered. "I think I protected you. That's the only measure I have. We lost a year with Marcus. But we lost it because he made a choice. I refused to pay for the consequences of that choice. I'd do it again." She was quiet. Then, the photos were never delivered. No, there's no record of that day. Except the video. And 200 witnesses. And a marriage that lasted 11 months. "And us," I said. She was quiet for a while after that. I could hear her breathing in the dark. Eventually she said, "I'm glad you took that microphone. Kezia's baby is due in September. Donna has been knitting blankets since May." Marcus asked if he could be in the delivery room. "I want to be a good uncle," he said. I told him he would be. I meant it. Every check I write for the nursery, every crib rail and rocker and blackout curtain, I write without hesitation. Because generosity was never the problem. Generosity is still the right impulse. The problem was giving it to people who treated it as evidence that it would never run out, that no matter what they did, the money would keep coming because it always had. Brittany is engaged again, Kezia tells me. Someone she knew before Marcus. Good for her. I mean that too. People deserve second chances at happiness. Even people who pushed my wife into the mud. What they don't deserve is my money while they do it. I don't think about the terrace much anymore. The limestone flagstones, the Edison bulbs in the oak trees, the centerpieces I paid for, still sitting on tables when Donna and I left. I don't think about any of it most days. But sometimes I'll catch Donna looking at her hands, just looking at them the way you do when you're somewhere else entirely, and I know where she is. She's back in that flower bed. And I think about the quiet of that moment, 200 people who saw it, a string quartet that kept playing, and I know I will never regret walking to that microphone, because someone in that room had to say it, and nobody else was going to. Now I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer it honestly in the comments. What would you have done? Type 1 if you think I should have let it go, stayed for dinner, kept writing the checks, given it time. Type 2 if you would have done exactly what I did. Type 3 if you think I went too far, that pulling the house down payment was crossing a line. There's no wrong answer. I genuinely want to know. And if you're watching this at midnight somewhere wondering why this story found you tonight, I know why. You've been in a room where someone treated the person you love like they were disposable, and you've been trying to figure out what the right response was ever since. I hope this helped even a little. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. That matters to me. If this story stayed with you, please subscribe. There are more of these, more people who made hard choices, who drew lines, who refused to fund the version of their life that was hurting them. I tell these stories because they deserve to be told. And because someone out there always needs to hear that it's okay to stop paying for your own mistreatment. This is a fictional story inspired by real emotional experiences, fully rewritten and reimagined in Houston, Texas to create original content. Any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental.